Alright, and welcome back to Don't Think Just Charge. A little bit of a different one today. We couldn't find any time to film a battle report because, life just sometimes gets in the way. So I thought I'd just kind of jump on and do this very kind of casual, impromptu chat. So basically, because One Page Rules are coming out with their Wood Elves soon, and we're planning a campaign with Wood Elves versus Dwarves, the kind of classic grudge pairing, the classic fantasy rivalry there. And as you know, if you've seen the channel, you know that I tend to do the maps. If you've watched before, you recognize this is from my current Shadowstalkers campaign, and this is from the previous one where it was Grimdark Future, dwarves and not dwarves, high elf fleets and robot legions and stuff. So what we're going to do is, I thought it might be useful to some people if I just kind of talk through my process when I'm making a map. I've been doing Dungeons and Dragons and world building for all kinds of things for a long time now, and I'm actually the commission painter who worked on the Tyria map for One Page Rules. So yeah, they did a little bit of work after. I think they changed the style a little bit, but yeah, in general this was all my map. So yeah, very happy. It's so cool to see this, like the first big commission project I've done, and it's so exciting. Look at this. I mean, it does I spent ages looking at my own map, so this looks even better now with all the stuff added to it. But yeah, very cool, very happy with that. So this is continent scale, and so in general you'd only see the really big rivers and stuff, and what we want to do is focus on this area here where it's wood elves there, dwarves there, and the stuff in between, because this war is going to be about that. So we're going to go through that. So I've kind of screen grabbed just a part here and then expanded it out. So now I've got a kind of blown up version that's all low res because it's blown up, obviously. And yeah, I'm just going to go through, kind of talk about what I'm thinking as I do it, really. So let's get started. Very first thing I want to do then is define the kind of coastlines and then the rivers. So there's this thing with map making that the coastline kind of always has very similar shapes. No matter how far you zoom in, you just get more details. So it wouldn't look this smooth up front, up close. And if you're ever doing coastlines, you kind of just want to make it as random as possible, kind of, just whoop all over here. And obviously this is very rough at the moment. I'm just kind of planning things out, so it doesn't matter too much. And this is how this always starts. You're always just going to throw down some random stuff to begin with. So we have these rivers that follow this, so actually I'm not going to worry too much about up here for now, because this isn't really the main focus. I may even end up cutting that part out. So obviously that comes around there. Then we have this, and that ends at the Great Rift. And obviously originally that would have kind of come out there, but now we've obviously got the Great Rift just kind of sucking up all that good water. So yeah, crazy things happening to that ecosystem there. And yeah, so first of all, let's start figuring this out then. So do we have any rivers? I feel like water would probably collect around here, and we might get some minor rivers that kind of run. Maybe if we just do 2 minor rivers that kind of go whoop, and then also just fall off into the Great Rift like that. And these are just going to be very kind of small things that don't really mean too much, just create a bit of a natural barrier there. And then so rivers always obviously travel from the highest land down to the sea. That's where they eventually end up. So where is our highland here? We do have some stuff there, so I'm thinking there might be some rivers that kind of just start really thin around here and go maybe if we have it like that and like that, maybe have quite a few running this way. And then this looks like it stays quite flat, so probably let's just put a few smaller ones that come down there, and I think that's meant to be reversed. So, okay. Now, the reason this is important is because older civilizations, before we had trains and vehicles and planes and everything, like if you haven't looked that hard into world building, then you might not know, but water, like rivers and kind of canals as well, when you get the man-made ones, those are the main ways that you're going to get your kind of trade and all that kind of stuff, because it's just a lot easier to load stuff onto a boat. So that's why you get a lot of like capital cities that form on these kind of things. So what I've kind of done here is to create these rivers, knowing that like I'm working off of one-page rules, like where they've placed the settlements. And I think this is quite cool if the rat men have like just had to put up with this like quite plain, like almost step like kind of thing, like there's not a lot there. But yeah, I've tried to make these rivers go by these settlements here so that you've got kind of reasons that they exist. And I mean, obviously, like you can kind of learn as much about maps as you want, but there isn't really a precedent for how enormous crack down to hell in the world would really affect the thing. Like, how would a river form there again? I probably not. So I guess we kind of just use our best guess, unless someone wants to go and like open a portal to hell that cracks the world in half. Then we don't really have a reference point. So let's not worry too much about it. Like this area probably wouldn't collect too much rain. In fact, potentially you'd have rain like rivers going further back down. Maybe that could be kind of interesting, couldn't it? Imagine if we had like a river that actually went, like if there was a slightly higher area here, we had some rivers that collected and just went whoop and whoop, and then kind of like that. Maybe came down and kind of, ooh, interesting. Could that happen? Who knows? But like, it's kind of a cool way to look at it, isn't it? So yeah, and then like since these are all small rivers, maybe we just have this one that follows that. Okay, so now we've got that, I am just going to just go through and kind of put down the big hole in the world. Okay, that's all done. So yeah, as we draw over it, this might start getting a bit messy, so I think it's good to just give these big bold things. And now one thing to note is that obviously this is at a continent scale, so I can actually afford to make this a lot smaller than what is shown here, because I feel like although this is like, if you're looking at it from far away, this is still going to be miles and miles across, so it's kind of more of an abstraction when you're looking at it from that far away. So we can make this look a bit smaller, a bit more kind of scale accurate when you're getting into like a kind of country level, I suppose. First of all then, we need to figure out some roads, but first of all we want to figure out the kind of main settlements that would have existed without those roads. You get like the places that are on rivers, kind of how things have like interacted as they go. So let's make a new layer for that. Let's start over here. So what do we do with these dwarves? So we've got a big dwarf place here that's like just a big fortress kind of thing, and that's what a fortress looks like. Don't at me. Oh, sorry, these are the Havoc dwarves, aren't they? We want to start down here. These are the actual dwarves. Havoc dwarves are a whole nother thing. Whole nother kettle of fish. So, I'll just do that. We've got a fortress here. So, the Rat Men and the Chivalrous Kingdoms. Let's say these guys are quite well protected. Okay, so you got like Havoc all up here. You've got like the tension between the two kind of human factions here. So why don't we say that this has been fairly peaceful for a little while? So this was a big fortress at one point. This was just mad, all very well defended. Just these are all like spears and bows and arrows. I don't know. But in recent times, there's just not really been any kind of stuff going on. So they've kind of opened their gates and things are like a lot more peaceful. So now it's like, I suppose kind of like a tourist spot would be cool. Like not like full on like, oh, people go and snap up pictures or whatever, but like, a place that like people can kind of come to. The Rat Men, I think we're going to go in a little bit with the Rat Men, are these kind of quite altruistic, quite like socially minded people, because that's what One Page Rules has gone for, rather than like the kind of Warhammer thing where they're all these disease-ridden crazy people. So maybe this is just a nice little hub then. This is a place that like, it's still well fortified, it's still a big castle from ancient times, but we've just got a lot of people. It's used for trade. They've got this like dwarven kind of machinery and architecture and all this stuff. So this is like really wealthy. That's kind of not gold, that's kind of brownish, but whatever. So this is really wealthy and fairly well connected. So let's just make sure we put roads. There we go. Maybe could have done that a bit smaller. And then we'll remember. So yeah, this thing is like a massive fortress that kind of acts as a trading spot, and I suppose that means this would be fairly multicultural. You'd have rat men, you'd have humans, you might have the occasional like elf, and there's orcs over to the far end. I don't really know if orcs would particularly be there, but whatever. That is fine. Okay, cool. So let's go for. Okay, let's go up here next then. So you got Havoc up here. You got dwarves here, Havoc dwarves here. We've got this like fortress here that I suppose is meant to be Havoc because this is in part of the Havoc area. So let's say that these guys, they're even though they're both aligned with Havoc, like Havoc is a terrible thing in general. So there is a lot of bad blood between these, a lot of animosity and all that kind of thing. So this area here is just a wreck. This fortress is like barely hanging on. This is just kind of crumbling. It's like held by just like, if you're ever to see it, it's not like a proper castle. It's just like a Dark Souls kind of thing. We're just cobbled together with like wooden kind of pathways and stuff, and everything's like really terrible. This whole area has like been the victim of scorched earth loads of times and just really doesn't work for much nowadays. So in the Havoc Dwarves, maybe this area, it is a big castle. However, this also has been the victim of a lot of attacks, a lot of stuff going on over the time, and because of the like demonic influence, because the Havoc Dwarves kind of worship these demons and they maybe don't focus so much on the like pure architecture and science side of things, they're kind of into like some more nefarious things. Why don't we say this is also a little bit worn down and doesn't get well maintained? So it's not a traditional fortress in the fact that like it's not like a well defended, well kind of maintained thing, but actually it's like super treacherous. There's all these like, I don't know, pitfalls with demons in them and just like stuff that just lurks around every corner and stuff, and it's just very, very like treacherous. It's even dangerous to its own people, but it does mean that like it's hard to attack. And maybe we have a few more. I'm not going to go too much into these because I think the main focus is the dwarves and the wood elves, so we'll get to that in a bit. But it's worth filling out these things because then when you get into these stories, like if you're building for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, like I probably would say I've done more of, you can like think when you've got a character coming up now, oh, are they from here? What's their life like? And like as you fill in the world, you're kind of getting this idea, and like the world building kind of comes into the map making, and the map making then comes into the world, but where like everything kind of feeds into itself and you're kind of figuring out this stuff as you go. So hopefully that made sense. I feel like I might be just rambling a little bit, but hopefully this kind of stuff is helpful sometimes. Who knows? Okay, so let's stay down this side. Ratmen. They're super communal. They have these nice little villages. They're like maybe, oh well, these are the big fortresses actually. So yeah, let's just do, and actually no, here's what we're going to do. Because we're zoomed in now, we can do these big fortresses that are kind of there, and maybe we have some little hub cities here that like supply them. So we have, yeah, these kind of fortresses. We have little cities here, and then maybe one more fortress here. And what's this meant to be? Chivalrous kingdoms? Okay, we'll work on that later. And then, so Ratmen, I think, yeah, they're super communal, super altruistic. The reason they have this fortress here is because demons come in. But let's say that the dwarves also have, the Havoc dwarves also have a kind of way to get across the rift over here. So what that means is, with the Ratmen, the chaos can get there. The Havoc can get there. The Havoc dwarves can get there. But that's not always necessarily a bad thing. It's not always invasions. Well, actually, instead of putting it there, it would make more sense to have it here, because then the fortresses make sense. So this is a well-defended area, so like attacks aren't that super common. But what it does mean is that the Ratmen, who kind of don't judge people for their ideologies, they can trade with them. Like sometimes it is in like, just because you're Havoc doesn't mean you don't need like supplies every now and then. You don't need diplomacy. Maybe stuff happens and you need to get through. But they've got this weird little bridge, and it's not like a real bridge. It's like some weird demonic pact that the dwarves made, and maybe ages ago they kind of got through and attacked and stuff. But then since then it's kind of been like just left there, and the dwarves can come through. Maybe the Ratmen don't even use it. So these have a super communal spirit. They're very, very uh, defensive against Havoc. They're really good at that. But they're also in a bit of a kind of rubbish area, so they don't tend to they're not particularly like wealthy in terms of what they can produce and all that kind of thing. So I will just put this in now. We're going to do more roads later on, but let's just do roads in like a, I don't know, like a greeny grey, kind of like this kind of thing. Maybe a bit darker than that. So these guys have just so many roads. Like they go like this, then like this, then like this. Yeah, no, maybe they have like a main road from their city. Let's just give it a little bit of a thing. And then that goes that. So you kind of come up there. You've also got a road that goes like that. So like they're kind of like the Romans. They just have roads everywhere. And maybe we do a few that lead off to other places there. Then we'll figure out some extra towns for them later. So yeah, Ratmen, super organized with their roads. Super, let's just redo that. So yeah, lots of roads. And what that feeds into is now we can put the roads that go to the dwarves. And if we've got a little tiny river here, possibly all we need is a road that goes like that, because you'll use rivers if you can. And yeah, that's all good. Okay, right, so we have the Ratmen. Now, what I am thinking is this chivalrous kingdoms place, maybe that is a fortress. Here's what I quite like about the Ratmen in this thing. Maybe they are like really good, whatever. They're very, yeah, altruistic, all that stuff. But like the humans still judge them. They still see them as like rats, vermin, all that kind of stuff. So like, and especially the chivalrous kingdoms, because they're kind of pompous. Like we have this conflict here where like kind of the chivalrous kingdoms, the rats have just a lot of animosity going far back. They kind of see them as vermin. They have a lot of conflict. So yeah, like even though the dwarves get on with both and they've maybe acted as peacekeepers in the past, maybe that's part of why this place is such a thriving success now. Let's go to here now. Let's kind of go around the wood elves, skirting around the point, just doing a bit of foreplay here. So we've got the human empire, and this is the area that like historically the human empire expanded into, started deforesting, and I think they're still like slowly deforesting and like expanding out because humans are terrible. What I'm thinking is maybe there is like a big capital city here. Don't know what that was meant to be at all, but this area is actually a lot of quite small settlements with kind of like low rates of like contact. They're kind of like what we'd kind of think is like they're all kind of like lumberjacks and stuff, because obviously the main trade is wood, which like isn't a particularly glamorous thing. So maybe the rest of the empire kind of considers these like country bumpkins. They're like a bit further away from the heart of the empire. It goes much further down here. All the big fancy places are here. This is like a big castle type thing like that. Um, and this is like you kind of come here, you kind of, it's a bit like, it's like lucrative because it's space to expand into, but also the people have to be a bit like hardy because they do get into conflict with wood elves and stuff. It's very like survivalist, that kind of thing. So like, although this is kind of maybe like a decent market town, places where like a lot of like the logging, like wood lumber industry, whatever you call it, lives, like this is a lot of fairly rural, like small kind of settlements. So like we've got farms and things like that. So what that means in terms of like roads and stuff, the big main roads, I suppose, you might have like one that comes up from here, because it would still be a bit pointless not to. But I mean, to be honest, actually, maybe the road avoids these. So like you'd have this road that appeared over time because people don't want to get too close to that, so they stay kind of equidistant from either side of this rift. And then yeah, they just kind of get up to there, and then everything else is like a lot smaller, so you wouldn't really see it on a main map. Maybe we do mark that out later on, but in general it just comes up to here, and then that's kind of the end of it. Everything else is just little villages and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's fine. Also means we've got some good conflict if we need it later on. Like these people are very kind of, they are quite tough, even though they're not necessarily soldiers, and that's all good. Awesome. Wood elves. Let's go to the wood elves, shall we? So here's what I'm thinking. Their capital is less a big main thing and more like a collection of, let's use our black. More like a collection, a very tight-knit collection, but still kind of like individual, I guess, kind of districts. They don't have one big central thing. So like, this is like, people wouldn't really bother to attack it because like, what can you attack? There's like a load of little things. The wood elves are like very skirmishy, aren't they? You kind of just duck out, get to the next place, and then you counter-attack, and it's all terrible for invaders. So I think that works out, and then we can start fleshing this out a little bit. So maybe like how, like their rulership, maybe they have like one high prince that we can name later on. Let's just put high prince HP, high prince, not Harry Potter. And like it's like the rule of, kind of a rule of like the forest is like ever changing, and it's like predators. So like maybe there's like this might makes right kind of ideology here, where like for elves, even though it's all steeped in ritual and stuff, so it's very, very kind of like what we would consider quite conservative and all like kind of that kind of thing. Like maybe they can be challenged at any point, and like there's all this ritual they go through and stuff like that. So the high prince can actually change. So like for elves, like the dark elves and the high elves, are very, very like stuck in their ways. Actually, the wood elves get a bit more, and I know they're getting their release, so this might contradict everything. So who really knows? That might just be completely wrong from what they've come up with. I don't know how far, like the world book didn't go too far into their society and stuff like that. So I feel like for a good story, we can kind of flesh this out, and that will play into how the campaign goes. You know, this is what I'm saying again. You always want to be aware of that. So maybe like these districts each have a prince, and you don't actually have a king. They kind of call themselves princes. So like each time there's like a challenge, it's like a prince from one area challenges the high prince who's based somewhere else, and that's kind of how that goes. So that's what we'll do. There's like, yeah, however many, like you'd have like the 10 princes or the 12 princes, whatever's a cool number to have, and yeah, they kind of all listen to the high prince, but they can challenge him anytime. Awesome. We figured out a couple of more of these. Let's have a look. So this area is interesting because, okay, this is like, even though again we're continental scale, so we're like, this is quite far actually. This is probably a couple of miles still, but this is kind of close to a lot of stuff. So this would be really war-y, wouldn't it? These are probably the people who have been like really facing off against the Empire here, and these ones as well. This is their little tree houses. So I feel like we'd have. Is there still? Okay, here's an interesting thing. If these people have been in contact for a while, maybe there's animosity, but maybe they're also quite influenced by each other. So like maybe the kind of rural people from here and the the border people here are kind of considered similarly by their like they have a lot of like hatred towards each other, but actually they also have a lot in common. So these are more like humanized. Maybe they kind of have similar um, smaller like rural, whatever rural means when you live in treetops and stuff. Maybe they have like slightly smaller settlements. They're kind of considered the country bumpkins of the wood elves. Um, and there's like weird amounts of interaction that's also non-aggressive. So we have a lot of this kind of like this is like a savage area. This whole bit here is quite savage, but like they also kind of like work together on a lot of stuff. So maybe there's like I don't know, underhand dealings, maybe some diplomacy, some trade, whatever. Something happens there. Um, and then like you could also like afford to, because you've got a few that are around here, maybe like these two are quite different. Maybe like these are more connected to the other wood elves. So these ones are proper like they're very angry. Pointy wood elf ears, let's do it like that. So these guys are proper angry. They hate humans. They just have no love whatsoever. And these guys are very, very humanized. They're like kind of a little bit like like these guys. Oh, what's up with those? They like have like human hairstyles and they dress like lumberjacks instead of wood elves. And like, are they even elves anymore? Like, what's going on with these guys? They're just not like us, but they're still wood elves, so they still kind of get on. But like, and then these guys are like maybe also have slightly more human tendencies based on the contact, but like really, really like there's like this natural border here where the river is, and anyone kind of this side of it is a lot more lenient and kind of travels regularly and all that kind of stuff. We can figure that out. It's not really that important right now. We're just getting an idea, and this is just hopefully all this kind of spitballing is kind of giving you ideas for your own things, helping you out with like how things work. We have an area here, and I think this is a cool area because you've got Havoc here, High Elves here, and they're not necessarily like against each other. There was a big alliance before, but that's kind of broken down now. So this stuff is like really isolated from the more human, kind of more civilized areas, and is just like very kind of magical in nature, let's say. So I think this is just super exotic, has all the kind of tree men, is that how? Yeah, I spelled that right. I'm talking while I spell. It's really difficult, guys. Okay, so you got like tree men, you got revenants, you got a lot of the kind of immortal, because wood elves have this thing where when they die, they get planted as a seed and then they get reborn. They get this like nice eternal life. Maybe this is kind of the place that a lot of them go because it's like very kind of quiet in terms of mortals. It's like just a place where lots of tree people live and they're happy. Those are happy tree people there. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, anything else, or do we leave that for now? I think for now, let's not worry too much about these. I feel like there's some stuff to be said for up here. I think you'd have... So, we've got a place that potentially used to be... I think you'd probably have a settlement on this, because you've got like... This was obviously a river at one point, so like you'd have trade coming in here and all that kind of stuff. Also, like if the High Elves had maybe trade networks here, it would kind of come along there and that'd be fine. But now, I think this would make a really good, like maybe you have this place clamped down. This is like some quite like important site for them, and Havoc demons can easily come in, so maybe you have some like little defense networks along here. And we go that way, like they've got like defense networks now. Havoc does sometimes come up the river. This is kind of an area that elves don't go so much unless they really need to. And then up here you'd probably have loads of little trading settlements and stuff, especially along here where you've got the halflings are up here. I'm not going to worry too much about halflings right now. So because we're staying around this area, and I may even expand the map further and like cut out this. I might keep it, but like this is going to be kind of where the stuff happens. We're going to leave out this for now, and that's fine. Okay, let's figure out some roads now. So we've got the Ratman roads, we've got the stuff that leads to the dwarves here. Because there's trade, I think we've got other... Oh yeah, maybe the dwarves have figured out and made a massive land bridge over to here. I think the rift is cool and a really good obstacle, but then you should have like choke points where people can cross, because otherwise there'd just be no interaction. So maybe they use like a mix of like magic and stuff to kind of like create a little land bridge. And it's a massive thing, and it's like well kind of looked after and stuff. So yeah, and then you've got like another city down here. Maybe that's a bit more... Well, who knows? We're not going to worry too much about that right now. But yeah, you got a road there. Maybe you got a road there that we don't worry about where that goes to. And yeah, then what we've got, the Ratmen, the Chivalrous Kingdoms. Do the Chivalrous Kingdoms maintain? Maybe there's no road. Maybe they have a road. On the right. Yeah. Maybe they do have a road, but they have some kind of... Well, let's keep the link there. But there's... If we need to, we'll figure out what theirs is. And then I was thinking, you've got a lot of... This is a kind of neutral area here. And you've got a lot of factions that all kind of like do a lot of stuff here. You got the Havoc, you got Ratman, So, might be kind of cool if down here somewhere there is this like enormous bridge, this like kind of gilded, just like, you know, just kind of thing that... There we go. Let's get rid of some of that. So you got this like massive bridge, and it's kind of this big, like, it's actually like there's a huge built up city around it. And what that is like a coalition. So this place is like fully multicultural. So you got like Ratmen, you got dwarves, you got elves, like all types of elves that live there. You've got like a lot of humans because of all this and all this. And like, I suppose this would be like a massive melting pot. You'd have like people that worship the Havoc gods, but in more of a kind of like less aggressive way, where they don't like go and sacrifice everyone on their altars and go to war. Maybe this is kind of a civilized, like people worship the god of change just as a like knowledge thing. You know, they have like libraries dedicated to the god of change, or they have like, you know, like training places dedicated to the god of war, like hospitals dedicated to the god of plague. Maybe that's more interesting, where like the sides of the gods that are more positive are represented here, where you've just got this like melting pot of like cultures. And I think that would be really cool. That would have like a load of stuff going on there. And then when you get into campaigns, like how, if the Wood Elves want to march an army across it, is there just a toll and you can march a load of people? Is it kind of, is it just like open, or is it like something that like they go for peace? I feel like they would probably have this like neutrality. Maybe they have this like pure neutrality thing where like they don't get attacked, but then also they don't stand in the way. They don't have their own standing army, and it's just like this big thing. Like this might be the place where if diplomacy has to be done and it's really tense, maybe everyone comes here. Maybe this place is like just like a place where it's like this, it's almost sacred that you just do not attack in this area. This is like, because it's like it represents this kind of thing against Havoc, where like everyone's working to create this like land bridge from the kind of sea and the east, and then the plains and the west. It's like it's really important that that stays kind of neutral and like well maintained. So yeah, I think that could be quite an interesting area to develop there. So what else? Okay, we've obviously got a road. If that's what that is, we've got a road that goes whee, boop. And like when you're doing map stuff, it's always good to make things wiggly, just, you know. And then we're not going to worry too much about that, but let's have a road that goes down to the rest of the Chivalrous Kingdom stuff. High Elves, yeah, let's do a couple of, let's do, so the river ends there, let's kind of have this come like that. And then Wood Elves, like we're talking roads, but these can be kind of like routes as well. So I feel like maybe you'd have kind of whoop, like that, and that could come to there, that then connects up to the river. And you'd have like ferries and stuff. And I think like when I don't draw a road next to a river, there might be a road next to the river, so you don't need to get on a ferry. But like we don't need to really illustrate that. That's the route adds to here and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. So I think also there should be another road that goes here, since that's such a big group effort there. And I think that's fine. We don't really have like this is havoc. Okay, maybe. Okay, so this is okay. Let's just do this a little bit. So this is a big havoc kind of. Oh, wrong thing. This is a big kind of havoc citadel. Maybe it's like still kind of cobbled together. I don't think havoc are particularly like buildy. But we do have like these big settlements, so maybe they do have these kind of big kind of warlord run kingdoms that kind of like fight against each other and stuff like that, and this is like the place where they kind of maybe they all group together to fend off the wood elves, stuff like that. Whatever, we'll figure that out at some point. But then I think there would still be like, obviously they don't maintain roads, but there would still be routes, wouldn't there? So it looks to me like this might be at the intersection of these. So, ooh, maybe we do this. Okay, let's do a road that goes like there. But also, because this is Havoc now, I think it would be really cool if they have a road like this is... No, okay. Yeah, okay, because maybe they have some network. Because rivers are useful for, like, everyone else. Maybe Havoc have some transport network that allows them to use this. Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Because this is like portals and stuff like that as well. This is all magical. Maybe their stuff kind of goes directly into this, and then they can go kind of wherever they want, but this is their main kind of strength. So here's our overall map, and it's going to look glorious if I do this. Yeah, there we go. This is a good start of a map, let me tell you. Plenty of good maps that I've done have started in this kind of scribbly, terrible thing. So let's just now add a bit more interest in terms of a couple of things. So this is a fantasy world. We want to fill this. Like, there's a lot of stuff: diplomacy, roads, trade, all that stuff. But now we kind of want to add like the element of like what makes this world kind of like, what's the stuff that kind of pushes this world to do things. And what we've come up with this idea that like the wood elves and the dwarves will start fighting because some havoc dwarves steal a dragon, and the wood elves thinks it's the regular dwarves. They kind of march down here, and the like prince whose dragon was stolen is like, you know, and then this whole big thing. And I think there's a murder involved as well, so it gets quite personal. The wood elves are still haughty and like that kind of thing. They go down, there's a grudge, blah 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 blah. You know the story. It's a tale as old as time. Let's say the wood elves have their kind of ideology is based around this like world stream, this kind of like life force. Maybe this is okay, right. Here's a fun thing. I went on honeymoon in Mexico, and we went to Tulum and places like that, and they have these things called cenotes, which are let me just grab a thing because you gotta see this. They are these beautiful little underground cave things where like you get these like flat lands, and the land kind of like gets dragged away, and they get these like really clear, clean water. Oh, I think I actually went to that one. But yeah, and they're beautiful. So why don't we say that's a kind of wood elf thing, just for the hell of it? So wood elves have this like network of cenotes, and they have these like underground streams that they believe kind of lead, like they bypass all kind of barriers, and they just run throughout the world. Whether or not that's true, that's their ideology. So they have these little, maybe each of these places has its own little cenote, and they're like highly they're ritualized. They don't just allow anyone in. They like part of their when a prince challenges to become high prince, it's like very ritualized that they have these cenotes. The magic definitely seems to like link together. There's like this weird world spirit that goes through. They also have them all over the place, so like there's this like magical network of cenotes that kind of goes, and it doesn't even need to follow the river. It kind of just, you know, goes all over the place, goes back to this big lake, all that kind of thing. And so maybe there's some here. Maybe we have a few areas that like they can use that go there. And even one that's held by humans, and this is like a big point of contention. This bit here is like these bums don't really understand what they've done, but like the elves have this like ancient thing where they'll, I don't know, maybe they like use that in their rituals to kind of like keep tabs on all the human stuff, so they know what's going on here because of that. So we've got here this area when you want a good fighting force of trees and revenants. You oh no over here, that was that place. Sorry. When you want a good fighting force of trees and revenants, you go there, and it's really cool. Lots of big crazy things going on there. Then let's also do this. The dwarves have some kind of, I don't know, a scepter. No, an axe. Is that a bit too obvious? Some kind of holy relic. A shield. I don't know. They have something that like it's considered that like the old dwarf king kind of made it and wielded it, and they don't. So maybe the dwarves don't have it, and it's this point of contention that why the dwarves and the havoc dwarves will never get on. But actually, the havoc dwarves don't have it either. They just let them believe, and actually, it's here, and it's like buried under so much stuff. It's just this kind of thing that they're never really going to get access to because they're not organized enough. If they could just work together, then the dwarves would be able to maybe come in, help mine the area. But like, it's just this legend at this point. It's like somewhere in this expansive, just evil area that no one can really get to. So we have this big kind of ongoing thing between them. Maybe we do this. There's this nomadic dwarf here. This is Mr. Man. He's very happy. Got a big nose. Okay, and what he does is he just kind of wanders. He's like this, I guess, kind of rune seer type person, and it's considered like he never ever goes to like big places. He travels around. You don't really know where he is, and then he just pops up in a random location, and it's considered like really auspicious. It like means something when he arrives, and people kind of follow him. He has a lot of people that will like travel to where he's last been seen. He tends to like just vanish, and then you just see him somewhere else. Word gets around, and he has these followers. I don't know if anything will happen with a story with that. It sounds kind of like a fun little thing. Maybe he travels everywhere. Maybe he just stays in the dwarves. Maybe he's like a friend of the rat men. Maybe different cultures see him differently. Maybe the rat men really, really love him. They kind of see it as they throw parades when they find him. However, this is them being happy. However, the kingdom see him as like this curse. Like wherever he arrives, they're like, oh God, and they kind of treat him with suspicion and stuff. But like he doesn't just go where he's liked. He kind of just appears anywhere, and that's kind of a thing. And yeah, maybe something will come up with that. Maybe he'll play a part in the campaign at some point. Right then, hopefully that has given you a good idea of how I kind of go about this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a time lapse up, and I'm just going to kind of draw out, just kind of neaten up everything, make everything into actual pictures rather than just scribbles all over the place. And then, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Enjoy. Okay, so as you can see, things are still a little bit messy, but neater than they were. I've tried to add just a little bit of character by like sketching out kind of what they would look like. I think maps look quite cool when you kind of personalize the icons and stuff like that. Um, Also, I've made just a couple of notes, nothing like massive really, but like I don't know, I thought maybe in like elf language this place would be called, like I drew 8 of them just randomly. So I decided maybe there are 8, maybe it's like the 8 souls or the 8 princes or the 8 hearts, like something like their capital is known as the 8 something of like something that represents kind of what they are. I haven't drawn the cenotes in just because I'll leave those till I'm kind of sure about what I want to do with them. And yeah, we've got the big bridge city over here. We've got a little slightly neater road network. I illustrated this so I'd remember that this is some weird infernal kind of packed bridge, not like just a classic bridge thing there. We've got the dwarf city. I thought I'd do it under the mountain and on the mountain because why not? And yeah, we got these little kind of Saxon village looking things to represent their kind of farmers. We got weird little tree people over here. Like the happy little guys. That looks more like a kind of skinny rat or something. I mean, none of them look like trees really, do they? Starfish, jellyfish, rat. But yeah, and I just drew that, and then I was like, oh, maybe that's the thing. And this is how world building comes about. You kind of something happens, and you're like, oh, why not just lean into that? So this is like the split tree, or something maybe like some ancient thing happened, and now that's kind of what that's known as. But obviously, again in elf language, so it's not just the split tree. It's like blah kind of thing like that. So yeah, I haven't drawn in the rift yet because that can come later. But yeah, if you enjoyed this and you've watched all the way to the end here, then give it a like, a subscribe. Do let me know. This is something I'm just doing because I couldn't film a battle report this week, so I don't necessarily plan to do a whole series. I will finish this map over time though, so like if you do enjoy this, if you found it helpful and you'd like kind of a bit more expansion on like how I go about world building, then by all means let me know. If there's some demand for it, then it's something I would love to kind of go into at some point. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this, and yeah, I will see you later. So okay, bye.